You ever look at a roster and think, man, this thing's hard to crack? That's exactly what I felt going through the Chargers post-draft depth chart this week, and that's why today's episode is going to be a little different. I'm not talking about stars. I'm not talking about headline moves. I'm talking about value, the hidden pieces, the guys who could sneak in after camp or closer to the regular season and actually make a difference. Because even though the top-end talent might not be elite across the board, this is one of the most well-constructed depth charts the Chargers have had in years, and that makes finding potential additions a lot harder than you'd think. What's up, Chargers fans? Welcome to the NFL Playbook, Chargers. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the Bolts. The whole idea here is trying to find the next tier tart, the next Elijah Molden, low-cost guys who maybe fell out of favor somewhere else or haven't hit yet, but could be perfect fits in LA under Jim Harbaugh and Joe Hortiz. But when you take a step back and look at what they've done so far, you can tell there's a clear plan in place. This team is straight-up volume shooting, drafting more players in the last 2 years than Tom Telesco did in his first 3, mostly thanks to all those comp picks. They've built a roster where almost every room already has its developmental guys in place. That's a great sign if you're a fan, but it makes speculative content like this a bit of a puzzle. Still, there are a few interesting conversations happening, and we've got to start with the biggest name that keeps floating around, Von Miller. Now listen, I get the excitement. You see a guy like Von Miller hit the market, and you think, let's add a future Hall of Famer to this group. And yeah, if you're talking pure pass rush upside, even at age 35, he's still winning reps. He had a 24% win rate in true pass sets last year. That's not washed. That's real juice. But here's the thing, Von Miller at this stage is a very specific tool. He's a situational pass rusher. He's not giving you edge setting. He's not giving you every down value. And if you're a team that needs run defense help off the bench, like the Chargers do, then this isn't a clean fit. And then you get into the Tuli situation. I don't want anything that eats into Tuli Tuipulotu snaps right now. Not just because he flashed as a rookie, but because this season is about figuring out whether he's the long-term edge 2 opposite whoever you end up paying or drafting in 2026. If you bring in Von, sure, he's better than Bud Dupri as a pass rusher. No doubt. Dupri had just a 7.8% pass rush win rate last year. That's almost 3 times lower than Miller's. But Dupri was signed to fill a very specific role. Set the edge, play the run, push the pocket a little, and do the dirty work behind Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. If you cut him and roll with Miller as your backups, suddenly you're soft against the run. And that's not something this team can afford. That's why I think a better approach might be looking for younger guys or camp cuts that fit the current structure better. Developmental upside, cheap price, special teams versatility, or interior depth. And one name that came to mind immediately was Evan Neal from the Giants. Now I know, former top 10 pick hasn't panned out. But that's exactly the kind of situation where a team like the Chargers can swoop in, especially when you have guys like Trey Pipkins on a contract year and Jamari Salyer still figuring out where he fits best. Neal has the size this staff clearly loves, 6 feet 7 inches, 340 pounds. He played multiple positions at Alabama. And while his pass protection has been shaky in the NFL, he actually had an 80-plus run blocking grade last year in limited snaps. If he becomes available, I'd absolutely be open to a day 3 pick swap, even if he doesn't play much in 2025. Just stash him, coach him up, and see if he can develop into your swing tackle of the future. Another name that makes sense, especially after the Von Miller conversation, is Isaiah Fosski from the Saints. And no, he's not a star, and probably never will be, but here's what he does bring. Special teams value. 354 special teams snap last year. That's 6th most among edge rushers in the league. He's a reliable edge setter, and if you want to let Tuli focus solely on defense, Fosski can take those 3rd and 4th team special teams roles and let Conklin ease into being more of a pass rush specialist. There's also a Jay Harbaugh connection from his Notre Dame recruiting days. That stuff matters now. Now, let's flip to offense. Wide receiver. Everyone's talking about Ladd McConkey and the rookies, but one spot that still feels thin is the true slot depth behind McConkey, which brings me to John Metchie III. Mechi was a top 50 pick for a reason. Incredible separator, strong hands, and he was just starting to put things together in Houston before leukemia, and injuries derailed him. Now, the Texans have added like 5 receivers this offseason, and it's realistic he gets cut. If he does, I'd absolutely take a flyer. He's not going to push Lad, but if you want a backup slot who can actually run the route tree, he's a way better option than Luke Grimm or Darius Davis in that role. And if he doesn't make 53, practice squad, easy stash. Now, let's talk trenches again. Will Hernandez is still sitting in free agency, and I don't get why. Maybe he's not fully healthy yet, but when is he? He's a rock-solid veteran guard who's played both left and right. And if this team is even semi-serious about Zion Johnson playing center, which seems more and more likely after OTA reports, then they absolutely need another legit guard. You can't go into the season with Brendan James or a 7th rounder as your next man up. Hernandez would immediately compete with Salyer for LG1 and offer flexibility if anyone gets hurt, and by this point in the offseason, he'd probably sign for cheap, maybe a $1.5 to $2 million one-year deal. Defensive tackle? Yeah, I still think they need help there. Justin Jones makes a lot of sense. Former Charger, had back-to-back 30-plus pressure seasons in Chicago, was injured last year in Arizona, but if he's healthy, that's a guy who gives you interior pass rush, something they're still lacking behind Tart, Caldwell, and Otito Ogbonnia. Right now, everyone in that DT room might give you 15 to 20 pressures. Justin Jones can give you 30, and he already knows the building. That's a no-brainer if he gets released. Last one. Ricky Stromberg, the former Arkansas center who was a 3rd-round pick by Washington, bounced to the Bears and then just kind of disappeared after a knee injury. I'm not saying start him, but if the Chargers want Zion at center and are still playing around with Andre James, then they need another young center option. Stromberg had a great pre-draft profile. Massive RAS score, good anchor, great movement skills. If he's cut, worth a futures contract or a practice squad spot. Especially since Josh Kaltenberger isn't exactly locking down that center 3 role. Now, let's zoom out. What do all these names have in common? None of them are splash moves, but all of them make this team better on the margins. And if Harbaugh wants this team to be built tough, deep, and physical, like Michigan was, then the final 5 to 10 guys on the roster matter just as much as the top 5. Depth wins games in December. Smart signings win games when a starter goes down. And to be real with you, if the Chargers want to be taken seriously this year, they've got to win a playoff game. Period. No excuses. Whether everyone stays healthy or not, the expectation should be to finally win in January. And these kind of moves, they help you do that. Now, some people are trying to get cute and talk about the Chiefs falling off because of their schedule. Let's not be those people. The Chiefs' schedule is always tough, hasn't stopped them from winning back-to-back Super Bowls. The Chargers also have a rough slate. They play the Eagles, Lions, Ravens, Cowboys, Bills, and Chiefs twice. There's no hiding this year. So, if you're going to go toe-to-toe with the best, you better round out this roster like it's ready to take punches. So, whether it's Von Miller, Evan Neal, John Mechi, or a completely unexpected name that shows up after camp, keep your eyes open. This front office is patient, and they've shown they'll wait for value. But if they want to make real noise in 2025, now's the time to quietly upgrade the margins.